Talking all things Georgia baseball as the Dogs get set for the Athens Regional, which will take place this weekend at Foley Field. The number 7 national seed Georgia Bulldogs in year 1 of Wes Johnson look to punch their ticket to the Super Regionals for the first time since 2008. Here to break it all down with us, our good friend Graham Coffee of Dog Central. Graham, what's going on, my friend? Appreciate you taking the time as always.
Absolutely. Happy to be here.
Graham, that stat that I just rattled off, that really jumped out to me. Georgia has not been to a Super since 2008. And you think about some of the – you were there.
I was in college. Yeah, I was in right field. Sorry to interrupt you.
You think about some of the teams that have come through, though, and I know Georgia fans probably look back at 2020, the Emerson Hancock year that got stolen away, and that was going to be Georgia's best shot to break that, maybe even get to Omaha. What's the excitement level, the anticipation, and maybe the pressure on this weekend to finally break through? I know it's year 1 of Wes Johnson, and it's like, who expected to be here? But now that you're here, you know, Graham, it feels like there's almost a level of pressure where it's like, okay, we got to get this monkey off our back and get to a Super Regional for the first time in 16 years.
Yeah, no, I think there's definitely you look at Georgia's draw, and they got that 7 seed, which I think everybody in the fan base was like, we'll be lucky if we get an 8 seed. So to get the 7, I think was kind of a pleasant surprise. I know they were 6th in RPI, but they had a bad SEC tournament. They kind of lost some games late the last series against Florida. So you kind of wondered, how's this all going to shake out? I think you look at that draw with UNC Wilmington, Army, and Georgia Tech, a Georgia Tech team that Georgia, really kind of hammered the 3 times they saw them this year. And it's a really good draw. Like, you look at UNC, who's the 4 seed in this tournament, they got to have LSU come to town, and they're scorching hot. And you don't really have a dynamic like that for Georgia right now. Obviously, UNCW, they won the CAA over a good Charleston team, but they're not an SEC powerhouse like an LSU or, like Georgia's not really facing a tough situation. And to your point about not seeing a Super Regional since 2008, you go back to 2018 and 2019, which were the last 2 times Georgia hosted a regional. And, they ran into like a really hot Florida State team that kind of came on the last month of the year that season. And they were sort of a buzzsaw. Like, you had some of these teams that coming into the regional, you could kind of say, yes, I know that the whole body of work's not great, but the way they're playing right now, you could argue they're playing, some of the best baseball in the country. And I don't see that in the straw for Georgia. So
it's baseball time in Tennessee as the regionals are back in Knoxville. The number 1 overall national seed, Tony Vitello and the Tennessee Volunteers begin the road to Omaha. And it all gets going this weekend. To help us break it all down and preview everything from the Tennessee perspective, our good friend Rainey from Channel Tennessee. Those guys do a fantastic job talking all things Volunteers, and they join us here today. Rainey, what's going on, my friend? You excited for the weekend or what?
Hell yeah, my dude. You're daggone right I am. So, I'll be there all weekend. You're going
to be there all weekend, drink in hand. It's going to be one hell of a time. They're putting the extra seating in. Lindsey Nelson is going to be rocking. Before we dive into, Rainey, the nitty-gritty of this regional this weekend, let's talk about really the season that's been for Tennessee. Obviously, there was high expectations and high hopes for the Vols, but you go down the list of accomplishments. I think it was Austin that actually posted this, but I mean, just the list of accomplishments for this Tennessee program and this Tennessee team, regular season champions, now you're SEC tournament champions. I mean, what's this ride been like for the Vols to this point? And now you've set yourself up with the number 1 overall national seed.
You know what? This season was kind of not expected to be the season that it is, that has come to fruition. But we were talking, me and Austin, on one of our podcasts this week about how hard it is to do what Tony Vitello is doing and just keep reloading, because that's so abnormal in baseball. I mean, you look at Mississippi State, they missed a tournament a couple years ago. They've been struggling. You saw LSU this season. I mean, even though they made it to the SEC title game, they were still struggling. And to see what Tony Vitello does on a year in, year out basis the last 3, 4, 5 years is pretty remarkable because you don't see that a lot in college baseball. It's pretty wild to watch.
So, Rainey, the Vols are the number 1 overall national seed. With that comes a lot of confidence. Also, with that comes the fact the number 1 overall national seed has not won it all since 1999. Do you believe in curses? Are you superstitious? And what does the rest of the Tennessee fan base feel? Because I saw some folks on social media saying, man, we really want to win the SEC tournament, but we'd much rather Kentucky have that number 1 overall national seed. What's your feeling, and what's the feeling you get from the fan base about that number 1 next to the name going into the postseason?
Let me give you my thoughts. Let me roll up my sleeves here real quick. I don't give a damn what seed we are. Curses are meant to be broken. They're always meant to be broken. I was looking at the Madden curse. Well, Patrick Mahomes was on the Madden cover. Well, that seemed to work out pretty damn well for him. So I don't believe in curses. Our fan base is a psychopath, a bunch of psychopaths. I mean, you can't deny that. Our fan base is one big, just psychopathic, just realm of people. And our fan base, one half of them will freak out. The other half, like myself, is like, I don't care. This is a hard tournament to win. This is a hard tournament to go through, maneuver through the muck and the mud of the weeds, man. It's you gotta fight and fight and fight, and any team can win in baseball. It's similar to like hockey or something like that, where it's just like, man, anybody can win in the NHL playoffs. It's kind of reminds me of the same feel about that. It's like you got a hitter's chance, you got a puncher's chance. Like it doesn't bug me. It really doesn't. I don't really care, because you're gonna have to play these people anyway, regardless, if you want to make it far. As far as our fan base goes, yeah, they're always on edge. I mean, you know us.
Yeah, Austin leading the way, I feel like. Right?
Lord help us.
Love Austin, by the way. All right, let's zero in, Rainey, on the regional. Of course, Tennessee, the overall number 1 national seed, like we mentioned. This ball taking place at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. It's going to be a raucous atmosphere. The 2 seed Southern Miss, very intriguing because of last year, some of the chirping that went on. 3 seed Indiana, 4 seed Northern Kentucky, and of course, that is who Tennessee will open up with on Friday. What was your initial reaction to the draw for the Volunteers? Did you feel like it was a more challenging draw? Did you feel like it was manageable? Just overall thoughts on who Tennessee got in their regional.
It's a setup. I mean, you can't look at this and say it's not a setup for ratings or chirping back and forth like you were just saying. Because I mean, you look in the Greenville region over here, which is the region that Tennessee play next, and guess who's there? Chase Burns, former Tennessee pitcher that transferred out to Wake Forest. They're setting this up. If Tennessee can make it, if Wake Forest can make it, they want the Southern Miss rivalry once more. But what they really want is that Chase Burns coming rolling back into Knoxville. They want it. They want it because like I just said, our fan base is psychopaths. And you do not want to be on that mound with a full entire stadium full of orange psychopaths. So feels like they're setting it up. But to your main question, I don't have a problem with it. I really don't. I don't have a problem with it. Like I said, you're gonna have to play all these dudes anyway if you want to make it. So why not just get them out of the way early if you make it that far? So I don't have a problem with Southern Miss being in there. We got Northern Kentucky Friday, I think 7 p.m. Correct me if I'm wrong, but our region, Tennessee's 50-11. Northern Kentucky, I believe, is 35-22. Indiana, 32-24. And I think one tie, on which I don't know how that's even possible in basketball. And Southern Miss is 41-18, I believe. So they got good teams. They're good teams, but I'm not scared. I'm not scared. So.
Yeah, a lot of confidence as you should have. Give me some insight from maybe those of us that did not watch every pitch of the battles between Tennessee and Southern Miss last postseason. What can we expect if those two teams square off? Is there really as much bad blood between the two as it feels like there is?
Have you ever seen that? Have you ever seen that video online of the two dogs barking at each other, and then the gate moves out of the way, and they just kind of stare? That's what it's like. I went down to Hattiesburg last year, and I witnessed the whole series. Their fans were incredibly nice, almost too nice. Like they wanted to, lure you off to murder you. I don't know, but they were extremely nice. I had a blast down there. The weather was crazy. The people were crazy. Their fan base was great. There's not much to do in Hattiesburg. But
do they have an Applebee's? That's my question.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's a trend going around again. That's popped back up in our feeds.
Yeah.
But Twitter is not a real place. So
indeed, big if true, right? Big
if true. It's like Wikipedia or something, like for people that talk smack, because you have this smack talk of Twitter or X or whatever the heck you want to call it now. And then you see him in person, and all's well. But it was a little heated there for a little bit. But it was fun going down to Hattiesburg. Hopefully they get to come up here. Well, when they do, they're in the region, but to play us. But once more. But you can say it's a little heated. I guarantee you it'll come back around if they face off. Guarantee it. So Twitter will be wild.
Yeah, as somebody once said, Twitter fingers ain't trigger fingers. So there's a big difference.
Until you hit send. Yeah,
indeed. Rainey, do we know the status of? It was AJ Russell, right, on Sunday. We saw him go out after an inning. Looked like he was kind of tending to the elbow, but looked like he was okay when he trotted out to the bullpen. Do we know his status? Is he good to go for this weekend?
Tony Vitello said he's fine. So I guess you kind of got to go with that. I mean, one of the trainers walked out there and kind of looked at him and checked him out. And everyone was like, oh, no, he just came back from injury. Is he injured again? I'm just going to say, take Tony Vitello's word that he's fine. So, I mean, this is a wait and see. So we don't know, really. It's kind of secretive. They keep injuries on the down low, especially in tournament time. So
when you look at the numbers, Rainey, and you mentioned them earlier, but I mean, 50-11 overall, 26-9 in conference, the number one RPI. You look at the numbers, first in home runs, right? You look at ERA, fourth in the country in ERA. This is a complete Tennessee team. They can beat you in a multitude of ways. We saw it all throughout the season. They can hit the long ball. They've got the power guys. They've got Christian Moore there, who's arguably the best player in college baseball. They've got depth in the pitching staff. In your mind, Rainey, with all that being said, what's the thing Tennessee needs to do this weekend if they're going to punch their ticket to the Supers? Is there like one thing you look at and say, okay, as long as we do this, we're going to be fine?
Pitching. Automatic, just answer immediately. Pitching around the country hasn't been just as solid as it usually is. Arkansas's got a couple really good pitchers, but outside that, the whole country's been average. But pitching for Tennessee has been up and down. Drew Beam, for me, is the biggest key for this team, because if you've watched Tennessee baseball, if you've really paid attention to him, Drew Beam's been good, but he'll have that one blow-up inning where he'll get us into a little bit of a hole. And so I want to see Drew Beam have a complete just shutdown type of game, which I really haven't seen much this year. Maybe the LSU was kind of there where he had a really good game. I think he had like one hit. I got to go back and look at the exact stats, but LSU, I think, might have been his best game he's pitched all season. But I want to see some consistency from Drew Beam big time. And that is the key for me of Tennessee making it far if AJ Russell is still somewhat injured that we don't really know of right now. So pitching for me is big with Tennessee, because like you just said, they have the offense. They have the long ball. They can drop it in the gap. They can hit it deep. They do everything. And I've said this the entire season. This is my favorite team Tony Vitello has ever had. You can say the 21s and the 22 teams with Jordan Beck and all those guys, but this team is the most consistent team that they've ever had. They've been the most consistent team in the country all season, and they know how to win. They if they get behind, they dig themselves out. They're so tough to beat, hard to beat.
So you mentioned Rainey, Drew Beam. It sounds like he's the X factor on the mound. Who would you say that guy is on the offensive side? Is it Christian Moore, or is it somebody else like a Blake Burke or somebody else in that lineup?
Billy Amick. Billy Amick has got to, and he looks like he got going against
that
LSU.
Was a bomb. That was a bomb in that LSU game.
The little Billy Barrels out there.
Yeah.
Transferred from Clemson, and he never, he'll swing at every pitch. He's never seen a pitch he doesn't like. But when he gets a hold of one, it's gone. And he's been on a little dry spell. And then last game against LSU, he popped one. He booted one out of the yard. And that's a guy that has to really get going. If he gets going, that offense is going to be unstoppable, because Tennessee's offense, their rotation from top to bottom, there's really not a bad spot there. It's solid all the way down the list. I mean, yes, is there some hitters that aren't as great as the other ones? Yes. But every single game, somebody different shows up when the other guys aren't showing up. And you're like, oh, welcome to the party. You saved us. So Tennessee's depth is just so deep. And they're a really, really fun team to watch and a really hard team to beat. So,
Rainey, switching gears before we get out of here, I have to ask you this. Do you feel like Christian Moore got jobbed out of the SEC Player of the Year award?
What do you think my answer is going to be?
That's why I asked the question.
Yes. He literally had every stat better than anyone else in the entire SEC. Come on now. Come on.
It did seem like, and I mean, again, I Charlie Condon, great player. We can all agree. But
yes,
it did seem
100%.
like Charlie Condon gained a lot of the momentum early, if not all of it. And then, somebody posted to me like 2 weeks ago, we were coming up on the last week in SEC play, and they're like, hey, I don't know if you saw this, but these are Christian Moore's numbers in SEC play compared to the other guys. And I was like, I did not even know that. So,
yeah.
I mean, it was wildly impressive. Christian Moore has made himself, I think, a lot of money this season. Rainey, last thing, and I'll get you out of here. Looking way too far ahead, if we do get that Tennessee Wake Forest Super, can you even put into words the hostility of that environment at Lindsey Nelson when Chase Burns is on the mound? The psychos, like you said.
The orange psychos will come out. Lindsey Nelson is it can get really hostile. As you know, a lot of Tennessee stadiums, arenas get very hostile because, once again, our fan base is a psychopath. We're psychopaths. So as soon as he steps foot on that mound, you better believe that stadium is going to be rocking harder than it's rocked in a very long time. I'm going to put it up there with the Wright State walk-off grand slam with just hostility at the very end of that game. Just the loud, the noise of shaking, the vibration. Like, it's just, as soon as that man steps on the mound, someone just say a prayer for him, because it's over.
I love it. Rainey, always a pleasure, man. Y'all do a great job over at Channel Tennessee. Let folks know where they can find all your work.
Well, you can find us on Twitter at channel_TN_. And you can find us on Facebook as well. Channel TN, same thing. We post a lot of content, a lot of Tennessee things. We troll some as well. We're funny, we're dumb, we're silly, but yeah, that's where you can find us, at channel_TN_.
Rainey, appreciate you taking the time, my friend. Always a pleasure.
Yeah. No problem, bud.